You opened a bar down a random back alley behind a cider factory, barely promoted it, and it's packed every single night.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that happen?
It's such a weird set of circumstances that came about. I'm the wine director over at Union Restaurant, and the owner of Union, Teo Paul, comes up to me and is, I've got this space that's over in the back alley there behind Cote de Boeuf. It's where Duncan, the bar manager at the time at Union, makes the cider, High Hope cider. And he's like, you want to come check it out? I'm like, sure. I go to check out the space. It's beautiful. It's probably 70-ish% done when I went to go check it out in January last year. It looks like the inside of a barrel. It's also super chaotic in there. It's where Cote de Boeuf is storing some winter tires and a patio things, but you just get the idea of this space. And he's, do you think we could do something with it? Sure. Let's serve some wine. Let's have a good time with it. He's okay. So that was like January. Probably in March, I was in Montreal with my partner and I get a call from Teo and he's like, yeah, let's try to do this. Let's try to open May, June. It was March. And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And Teo is very much like this, where he gets an idea and let's just do it. We'll figure it out. Details are details, but let's just set this goal and let's make it happen. I'm like, sure. So we're there and we're like, you know what? Since we're here, I've lived in Montreal for a decade. We're going to like all of our favorite flea markets and things like this. And we're like, that could be cool in the space. And I've visited it once, I think, at this point, maybe twice. Be like, yeah, that'd be a nice mirror to throw up. And that would be a nice thing to put in there. Everything starts coming together by the second week of July. A sink gets installed the day that we're doing our soft open. And there you have it. We technically operate as an event space in which we do a wine bar pop-up quite frequently on many Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, but it is nevertheless a pop-up in an event space. And it's catered by Union, so Union's license carries over there. The food is supplied by Union, the wine is supplied by Union, and I'm the wine director at Union, and so it falls hand in hand. But started with me inviting 40, 50 friends from food and beverage, and also just friends not from that, and just getting people to spread it a little bit word of mouth. I thought it was going to be this little tiny, we would have 10 to 15 people in there. We would get to dedicate some space to people from Cote de Boeuf waiting on the wait list to come back there, have some wine, have a slice of cheese, go back for their reservation. And quite soon after, we started to throw these events, exploded. Yeah.
Do you think the fact that it is so hidden and out of the way is part of the appeal?
Yeah, I think so for sure. Toronto has always loved a hidden thing. Back in Montreal, and I'd come to visit Toronto, I would go back to Montreal making fun of Toronto, being like, every bar is in another thing. You have to knock on this door. You've got to go through a thing to get to it. But it all just seemed so cheesy.
I was loving cocktail culture and living in New York in the 2000s. And yeah, PDT, you had to go through a phone booth and a hot dog stand, but that was new. And so it was cool.
Yeah.
But also, Raton Laveur, you didn't pretend to put it off a back alley in a cider factory. It just is.
The space couldn't be otherwise. It's not like we just invented a cidery to be there. And for several months, and maybe even now, I still have mixed feelings about walking through a cidery to get into the bar.
So much of our life now is about convenience and ease of use and accessibility. Do you think that's also part of the appeal for people, that this is an inconvenient space to get to?
Maybe. I think there's an aspect of that where people want to be, I think there's a level of, and I don't want to say discomfort, but to be pushed in a way that isn't so convenient. Something to contrast it with for me is a huge trend is the hotel lobby bar, which is by design supposed to be this beautiful, comfortable space where anybody would want to be able to sit down and have a drink and relax and not have to think about things, whatever. And then you have our space, which is packed, is 18 seats, all bars, backless bar stools. You are sitting right next to and sometimes sharing a table with another group. We have this barrel table, former Cote de Boeuf one. And this place is, again, like an assembly of so many bits and bobs and parts from everywhere. But we have this barrel table and it's in the middle of the room, and we'll sometimes just seat two tops, and they just got to be there together. And so, like, sometimes they mingle and interact and have a great kind of communal time. Sometimes they don't have to look at each other. I don't care. I
Yeah.
love spaces like that,
Yeah.
though. The kind of dream wine bar I've always wanted to have is something that I experienced in Dublin. My partner and I were living in Dublin for 2.5 months, and it's a place called Frank's. And it used to be like a butchery, and it still maintains the awning from the original butchery that it was like from years ago. And it is one long, wide table that runs down the middle of the room. It's a very small space. And the table is wide enough so that if you are across from another person, you would have no reason to talk to them, but also narrow enough that if your friend is across, you're interact. And basically the only places to sit, with some very few exceptions, is on this long communal table that kind of forces interaction in some kind of way, gets people closer together, and for better or for worse. And the service is the husband cooking and assembling wonderful charcuterie plates and beautifully assembled plates, and the wife running the entire wine program. One of the best sommeliers I've met. So passionate, so interesting, amazing curation. But all that aside, which is a part of the space, is almost hosting you at the table.
Yeah.
And I love that idea. And this space is almost an inverted version of that, where the bar runs along the wall and everything, but you have to be smushed in sometimes, and people meet each other.
You want to make a friend, you can make a friend.
You can make a friend, and we see it all the time. We see it all the time. That's so beautiful. If there's one thing I love about this space, is the way that there's this electricity. It's exciting in there.
Yeah.
There's no kind of dead space, dead air. There's people in the room, and people are talking to each other in the room, and people are having a good time. And it's not a space that's good for people that want to sit there, be alone, and
just have a one-on-one date quietly.
Yeah. It's it's barely possible.
But that's great, right? So much of modern life is we're so connected but feeling alienated.
Yeah.
And so a space that wine itself is such a great solution to that problem.
Exactly.
But you combine wine with architecture that encourages a solution to that problem.
Yeah, people often cite that problem, that people aren't interacting enough, or they're social in a purely digital sense, and then they go into the actual physical social world and not able to do much. But I think there's a lot to say about small space. I think small spaces are just really good at doing that. That's just, I think, almost a fact about space and persons being in them, as opposed to big, large spaces where people can be very spread out. And that's why I've never pictured myself in a space like that, because I've just always loved the small, cozy, comfy, if uncomfortable place, because you find other ways, you adapt. People complain about the feeling of a chair or something like this. And I feel like that's the kind of thing you focus on when you're bored, or there's not enough else happening, that you're like, oh, this chair. Yeah. I think for the most part, if somebody comes back to me and they're like, oh, I went to that place, but the chairs are a little uncomfortable, I'm like,
you missed the point.
Yeah, it's like, how was the food? How was the wine? How was the company? How was the music?
Do you think bars can have a culture? I don't just mean among the staff. If someone is coming back to Raton Laveur because they know it's a place where you can just strike up a conversation, it's almost like allowed there. To go back to the old school hidden cocktail bars in New York, a lot of them would have these strict rules on the wall, like men should not approach women and all this stuff, which was, I think there were reasons for that,
sure. Yeah.
But it did not encourage that kind of same community feel.
There's nothing that makes me feel more uncomfortable than enforcing a rule with Raton. From the jump, we're talking about a place that barely has... The rules that we have are like, there is no wait list. There is no reservations. There's no ice. There's no cocktails. There's no garnishes. There's no way to do that kind of thing. Like when I go to a cafe and they're like, no screens or no laptops or no Wi-Fi... I'm like, I get it, but that's a thing. It's a great example. Not my example, but your question is, I think, really fun for this. Because I think that is trying to force a culture of a place where if people didn't feel the need to bring out a laptop, they would. Yeah. But you're in a dead cafe. Yeah. And I get it. I'm forcing or whatever about like no cocktails. Sure. But that's just something that's a necessary restriction there, because where would I put a well? Where am I going to put ice? Where am I going to put all of these things? It's an 18-seater, tiny little space, and something's got to give. And if something's got to give, it's my terrible ability to make content. And if that forces anything, which I get, but it's also like, you're in a space that I'm also curating in a way, and the whole team is curating. And I think there's a way to respect that too. Yeah. The example I always give, I don't go to Civil Liberties and order a wine. I don't go to Bellwood's Brewery and get a cocktail. What do? I want to do the thing that they do. I don't go, it's bizarre to me. And I go to a place and respect what they're trying to like, I think, form their craft around and what they're specializing in. And not that everybody should be like, lots of people don't want to drink beer. I don't drink a ton of cocktails and things like that. But I'm nevertheless curious about what's the best thing you do.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Why would I want something that is going to be a second thought? And that's just a reality of it.
Yeah.
Whatever wines, if I can't even remember if Sybil has some wines by the glass, but whatever wines they have by the glass, there's no way it's backed with the same intention of
100%.
of hiring the best bartenders in the city to make you a cocktail that's so specific for you. And then to be like, oh yeah, and here's $20 Chianti that it can also pour you.
Yeah.
And again, I actually don't know if they have wine.
Yeah.
And I love that fact that I actually don't know that because I'm doing what I think I should be doing in that space.
100%. On that topic, I dove right headfirst into it. Could you maybe just share what is Raton Laveur?
Oh.
What do you do there? What is it all about?
As I previously mentioned, Raton Laveur is an event space that Union has where they host events. And I am one of the people that hosts events there, not in my capacity as the wine director at Union, but in my capacity as a third party who wants to host kind of wine bar pop-ups there. And
it's getting the legal stuff out of
exactly. That's like the technicality that we really have to be careful with. That's just the nature of the place. Like when people call it a wine bar, that's not an accurate description of what it is, especially from the state's point of view. Whether that's the city of Toronto, Ontario, or whatever. So that's the first thing. I host these events. I choose all the wine, choose the cheeses and the charcuterie, and I change the wine list every single week. A handful of things might change here and there, not change here and there, but you can always rely on there being sparkling white, sparkling red, a bunch of whites, oranges, rosés, reds, and every single week every single week that we're doing these events is a different event and theme. Last weekend was International Baga weekend. So we celebrated the great Baga. And so I'll pick grapes, I'll pick regions, I'll pick wine styles, I'll pick even just entire countries, soil types, and that'll be a theme for a weekend of these special wines that'll be on offer as well.
Besides Baga, what are some of the other recent ones that you did?
The wines of Tenerife. So we did an event with the Canary Counter, Celia, who was on the podcast, one of my favorite people. She came by with her maps, her tactile maps. She loves her maps. And we were pouring nothing but the wine for one whole night. The entire list was sparkling through to red, as I just described, but all from the island of Tenerife. And that was super fun. And then that just carried over into the weekend as specials. And then I've done just a whole theme around volcanic whites or reds. So we did some Etna wines, some volcanic soils over in Elfay in the Loire Valley we did. And then obviously Tenerife. I've done just an Aligote, we call it Aligote weekend, but Ali is spelled like Alleyway. And so I love Aligote. It's one of my favorite grapes. And
it's the only affordable thing in Burgundy.
There's that, but I'm just so passionate about the grape. And I think there's so many beautiful expressions of it. I did the Giro d'Italia where we did grapes from the furthest north to the furthest south and even into Pantelleria. So we've done just weird themes like that. I'll pick a grape, a region, a style. Sometimes it was just natty Italian winemakers. So just broad theme, as broad as it can get too. But there's always a theme. But yeah, I curate the space. And we also we do wonderful things with local wineries. We've done a Paradise Grapevine takeover. Last House from Prince Edward County is a winery I'm super passionate about. And then some of my friends with import companies or wine agencies will do takeovers as well. Sometimes dedicated to one single winemaker or winery, like we did on Eloise Ligator takeover. We actually, this coming Wednesday, or I don't know when this is coming out, but very soon we're doing a Sylvain Bataille night where it's going to be, I think it's 12 different SKUs of Sylvain Bataille the entire night.
Does someone need to know much about wine to have a good time? We're talking about all these different, very specific things I have certain go-tos and I don't know too much beyond that. Do I need to know a lot or can I just roll up and...
The one thing I've always liked, and I think it's something I learned from being at Archive for now 4.5 years, is I'd like to have a space where the nerds can come out and enjoy this rare thing or this interesting wine that maybe not a lot of people might appreciate or know about or whatever. but also a space where people can come and feel comfortable, and they're there to learn. They could be just there to not necessarily learn more. It's not an education hour or an educational experience every single time, but it's at least a place where they know they can get a glass of wine that they're going to enjoy. And I just feel so dedicated. Like, I think any good wine professional, I think probably every wine professional feels this way, where you just want to make sure you're getting the right thing in that person's glass that they're going to really enjoy, right?
Yeah.
And if it means me coming over with 6 bottles in my hand and a single glass and be like, what about that? What about that? What about that? What about that? Done.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that person feels that they've spent that $15 to $20 on a glass and that they're enjoying. You could reference all the home sense signs in the world about life's too short to drink cheap wine or bad wine or whatever, but there's truth to it. And I had to say this the other week to somebody, and I hope it doesn't sound too cheesy or something, but nothing would make me feel worse as somebody whose job it is to get people wine, to get wine in a glass, for somebody to feel like, I feel like I wasted $15 on it.
So should someone ever feel bad if they say, hey, can I just get a little taste before I commit?
Or
would you encourage them to do that?
I would really much encourage it. Several times people will be like, I'll have a glass of that. And I come over and I give them a pour first.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, okay, never mind. This is not your typical Malbec. It's like this. And they're like, yeah, but I love Malbec. And I'm like, okay, I don't love that Malbec. I'm always careful to be like, this is not your typical thing like this. If what you want is rich, opulent styles of wine with great texture and everything, this actually won't be that. It's actually a very different expression. Instead, you might actually like this, and they taste something like, oh, that's actually exactly.
Yeah. I think
Ask
some
for a
people are
taste.
shy. I was in a restaurant last weekend and I asked just to try this wine. I didn't like it. And then I got something so much better. I was just so glad that I just spoke up.
Exactly. And I don't know how every place runs. I know some places run on super tight pour sizes, and they need to get their 6 glasses, their 6 4-ounce pours out of every single bottle, and there's no room for little tastes like that. And that's just the way that they run it. I do think there's no way it doesn't burn. And I get where little tastes can be super inconvenient. That could be 2 trips. If you're actually corvining the wine somewhere else, or if you can't pull that bottle from the back in order to pour it for somebody, it's extra trips and it's super inconvenient. Maybe it's a whole other glass that you have to get out too. But that's, I don't know. For me, that's the bullet you bite for hospitality, is that you get somebody what they want.
That is hospitality.
And that's the convenient thing about wine. It's in the bottle, it is what it is. But if you're at a place, if you come to Union and you're like, can I just get a chicken Caesar salad? And there's nothing like that on the menu. Like, no. And obviously there's a toxic hospitality extreme where you could be like, sure, we'll make it happen. We'll find a way. And then we whisking Worcestershire and oil and egg together to get a sauce. That's obviously an extreme. But I think where it's wine, it's something that brings so much joy. Could make a night, break a night. Dishes do this too. But it's just such a simple thing to give a little, not even a 1 ouncer, and just be like, is this it? No.
Was there a moment or a night when you knew that this new space, Raton Laveur, was really working?
That's a very good question, because we did our first weekend in like mid-July, and I think there was this weekend in August where it was so many friends in the room. We had like Grape Witches there, and we had like other Somm friends there, and I had some of my like personal non-industry friends there, and everybody was chatting. Everybody was like so lively and everything. And I remember taking like one picture of the room, and I remember just seeing like a certain electricity in the room with friends and colleagues enjoying themselves. And that's what you want. And when you get that from peers too, and your peers coming up to you being like, this is so much fun, I'm like, great. It's not here to give you the finest dishes in the world, and it's not here to pour you what a lot of people make the greatest wines. It's not here to do that. It's here to get a glass of wine in your hand and make sure you have a good time. And yeah.
What are some of the craziest stories that you have, or craziest things that either craziest things that are that have happened, or just things that you've learned about running a bar that you just did not see coming?
So social media stuff has done things to the bar for sure. And I would say 2 months ago, a 4-top comes in and they're like, oh my God, this would be amazing. And they are decked out. They are like very dressed up, in not like any space I've ever worked in. I've never had to like I very rarely ever had to serve people that were like this fancy looking, big fur jackets and lots of jewelry and everything. I was like, oh, okay. And so we're like, yeah, actually something just opened up. And they're like, that's so great. And sit them down, waters, menus, sit down. One of them runs into the washroom, comes back out. They take some photos with the menu and in the space, and they leave right away. And then I didn't have another group have to come in for a little bit. And this is a small 18-seater place where every seat can kind of count. Some nights it absolutely could count. It could make or break us losing money or making money. A four-top like that too. That I turned away somebody that I think, and I could have maybe run down the alleyway and done that kind of thing, but you just happened to walk in at the right time. And now you're not here. Now there's 4 seats there that is not generating anything. And I think more importantly to me is that was 4 seats where 4 people could have enjoyed their night.
Yeah.
And came here for that reason, to have some wine and enjoy themselves and talk with friends. And now they don't get that opportunity. And you came in here and took your photos and laughed.
Here's the question. Did you then see a video on social media where those people were pretending that they had an amazing
No,
time?
I never checked that kind of stuff. And because the Instagram's still private, I don't even know if people tag us and if they're I don't think, there's a lot of things that I think that we can't see or don't see, or if people don't tag us and this kind of thing. We also don't have a Google Maps location strictly. And there's probably something around that too, like the way that you can tag like archive on Instagram as a geographical point or something. No, I didn't see it, but, and I didn't, again, it's not something that weighs on me. I just found that that was like a moment where myself and the team looked at that and we're like, ooh.
Yeah.
It was definitely a moment where just like, oh, okay, they were here at the very least for some kind of photo shoot of sorts and they left. And yeah, that's what we want to have. The intention of any space like that is for people to be there and enjoy
what we were
the
talking
things that
about
you're
before.
curating.
Connect with other people, connect with wine, have a good time.
It's clearly a small, intimate space that people are all buzzing and having a good time with, and like photo shoot leave is to like almost have blinders on and ignore everything around you and ignore the concept of a of a bar as a space to enjoy. And
on that point, how much do you think social media has played a role in the success of your bar? Because I have a very biased Instagram feed because it's a lot of the Toronto wine community, but it seems like everyone's there every weekend.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? It's at least a double-edged thing, but could be more edges to it. Like we have a private Instagram. You have to be like, we have to accept your request to follow us. So that means that any posts that we make are only going to the people who already follow us. There's no attempt from our perspective to get more followers by making fun posts and whatever. It's like purely informative and it's beautiful. My partner does all the social media and everything looks great and everything's super fun and playful. And we play with obviously the raccoon idea a lot. And so arguably there's probably like an internal success, like people follow it and they get attracted to that, like whatever. There's a success thing there. It started with me telling some friends to let other friends and colleagues and the kinds of people that would enjoy a space like this to come by, with the understanding that there's no cocktails and no this and no that. But very soon, the thing's been going on for 10 months or so, but there was a first kind of Instagram or TikTok that happened. I think that was like January. And that we saw a sharp climb in January, February, which should have been arguably pretty slow months. You're dredging through the snow of a back alleyway in order to get into this, maybe this weird spot if you find. But we definitely saw an uptick in times where we maybe shouldn't have seen an uptick in terms of people coming by. There's definitely been more of those posts happening and the place has just been getting busier and busier. And no matter where I work, I always ask somebody if it's their first time that they're joining us. I don't know them already. And the number of people that say this is my first time, saw it from TikTok is, I don't know. It's a majority of the room at any given point when we're open now. I would say that something happened recently with a TikTok, Instagram content creator who had never actually visited. Actually, this has happened a few times with us now, where the person in question doesn't visit. They just heard about it They take photos from the Instagram or from friends who posted from there or something like that. And they put us on blast essentially and just be like, this new cool hidden place in Toronto, blah, 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 blah. And then it blows up. This happened around the Easter weekend. And the following week, I'm wiping down the bar and it was 6 o'clock, door opens, and there is a lineup down the alleyway. And I'm like, no, this is not what I want. The alleyway is a alleyway with residential backyards all right there, homes right there. And seeing a lineup down an alleyway just made me sweat instantly, where I'm like, this is not good. We go outside to tell the lineup, everybody just got in. This will be 45 minutes, an hour, no wait list. We're not taking names. We're not taking numbers. We're not going to call you. We're not going to text you. They all just stay. It's like their mission, because almost certainly because of the social media post. It had so many likes, shares, whatever. And then we saw a post a few days later that was like, we waited an hour and a half to get it. And I'm like, you shouldn't do that. I'm not here to make people feel bad for doing these kinds of things. But I come from a philosophy where it's, no, I don't wait. I don't want to wait in a line for anything. And not in a way that's I'm too good to wait. It's that almost nothing is good enough to wait. It's a glass of wine. And I get it. There's the space, there's the this, there's the vibe, there's this. The review from the content creator was honestly vibes about the space. Maybe somebody wanted to see that thrilling review of honestly vibes for a space they've never actually been in. The use of the word honestly is questionable when you've never been to the space, but
someone sat in that chair a few weeks ago and said that he could open his phone, talk into it about a bunch of spots that he'd never been to on TikTok, and that it would pop. He was right.
It's of course true. It wasn't so much a review as much as it was like relaying, here's a new hidden hot spot in Toronto. And in that way, it's not dishonest. Those things could apply to us. Those terms could apply to us. But it would have been really nice for that person to feel a sense of responsibility to talk to us, like maybe reach out and be like, oh yeah, your Instagram's private. You're not on Google. These aren't things to do that are cutesy for us. They're a way to control the space and make sure that we have some sense of an ability to control too many people coming in and hanging out in the alleyway, annoying my neighbors, getting me in trouble for all sorts of things. It's like that we don't want to have. This isn't a weird gimmick. It's a way for us to be able to survive, first of all. Us getting too blown up is a way that our pop-ups could stop.
On the topic of lines down the alley.
Yeah.
And looking both across your experience at Raton Laveur, Union, Archive Wine Bar, what do you think wine professionals can do just to make wine more accessible and interesting to people? You clearly cracked the code a little bit if you've got a line down the alley.
Sure. It's a very good question. I think if anybody has an answer to that, write about it and let us all know.
I often wonder if it's literally as simple as if wine lists were just written a bit more compellingly.
I know. But it is an actual complex issue of so many possible variables and things that could intersect, right? There are just straight up physical space and aesthetic considerations and spatial considerations on a menu, right? Let's say you have 20 wines by the glass. I think Josh at Archive does a really good job of squeezing in these tasting notes to just help guide people in at least some way, so that not every single person working at Archive is describing all 20 wines in a row. There's something to give it. And Archive is, I think, the best example of a wine bar in the city about accessibility and getting people into wine. I don't think any place comes close. Whether it's the flights where people can taste things side by side and get a sense of comparing and contrasting flavors and aromas, I think is super important to have people learn about wine, or like how to learn more about wine. Having little notes here and there, and then having a staff that everybody knows a lot about wine. These are all important things. I think there's a warmth and hospitality aspect to it too, of like how you answer questions about wine. There's been places where I overhear somebody just be like, no, that's not right. Or they'll just tell a guest that they are like wrong about something. And I don't know whether it's my background. I have a background in teaching. And I look at just telling a student they're just wrong about this is bizarre to me. It'd be like, I see how you got there. I see the work. And I see how you got from point A to point B here. I'll just show you that there are alternatives here. All Rieslings are sweet, or all Chardonnays are buttery, or whatever, name it, right? All Ontario wine is like thin and tart red wine that's not good. These kinds of misconceptions. I would never be like, no, it's not like that. I'd be like, I see why you think that. I especially see why they think that about Ontario wines if you've only been to the wine rack to get a bottle of $10 Pinot Noir or whatever, or a red blend, why you would think that. But here, here's some reasons why that's not the case. And I would love to show you an example of how this, of a dry Riesling or of a non-buttery Chardonnay or of Ontario wines that are international wines, punch with the best of them. And so even just that, I think for me, it can be so many tone things. It just takes experience. I don't think I'm not perfect at it, but it definitely takes a certain kind of like sensitivity and precision when you're approaching a table to just get a gauge of whether you should be nerding out and whether you're going to explain carbonic maceration right now and the difference between semi and something like that, or whether we are talking, these are generally the flavor profiles of these different wines and this is how they kind of taste. Now, what do you like? Let me translate this for you. I think any wine professional will tell you it's a translation game. Somebody says they like Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc. You have neither on your list. Here's Pecorino, or you're playing these games all the time. But I do think just the way that you approach somebody, and I think it's just a matter of just being cool and easy about wine. It's fermented grapes. Calm down and just get people what they want, or give somebody something that they're intrigued about, or that's something that could push them in a different direction for sure. You don't want to just give people exactly the same thing. It's not how they learn to taste new things and appreciate new things.
Besides snobby service, are there any wine trends that you're ready for them to be over?
I would say it's almost, I might not be answering the question correctly here, but I do think this conception of Canadian, especially Ontario wines as being like bad wines or lower quality, or the only reason they're going to find their way on a list is to support their friend that makes the wine, or to have some sort of sense of locality, but without actually believing in the wine or being good for Ontario. I do think that a big thing for me is this Ontario wine phobia that is super frustrating, because there's world-class wines. They're not just good for Ontario. They are good for good. They are good wines that we should be respecting and that can hold their own on a list next to, and I'll say they can be great like Burgundy. Last night we had a winemaker in at Archive, or a winery representative, who was talking about the greatest Cab Franc he ever had. It was Rougeard. And I'm like, I love the Rougeard wine, but I'm like, I think actually one of the Cab Francs that probably just blew me away the most, and that I think can box with the best of them, is the Pearl Morissette Madeleine. And he's, oh really? What's that? Josh goes down to the basement, pops a 2014 Cuvée One, which is like an Amphora aged Cab Franc. The guy tasted it, and he posted this is the best New World Cab Franc I've ever had. I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, the New World thing, I'm like, could just say like it's one of the best Cab Francs you've ever had, which is probably also true. But there is that, it's from Piedmont. This is going to be the perception for sure. And he was just genuinely intrigued and excited to be trying Ontario wine. Even Sadie was at Archive recently, and when he was in Ontario, was just genuinely like a curiosity and an excitement about trying new things. And that's what I think is, whenever somebody says, what's your favorite guest? I love curious guests that just want to try anything. When somebody's, oh, I'd love a flight. I'm like, is there anything I shouldn't put on the flight? Do you hate this? Do you hate this? Give me weird, give me classic, give me everything. I just want to try some new thing. Melts my heart. I'm just like, yeah.
Oh, nothing makes me sadder than meeting someone who only drinks Burgundy. Even if they think, oh, I drink that best, I can talk about every vintage. I'm like, yeah, but there's so much more.
Oh yeah. I usually, those kinds of people for me have terribly deprived palate.
No.
Okay, you can taste two grapes really well. That's so cool. And you can name everything about it. Wow. I really hope that you get to try that ferment that like makes you go, wow. And like that full mallow Riesling that makes you think, oh wow, not everything needs to taste Germanic in Riesling. Yeah, I don't know. I just want people to try new things, open themselves up, and not look at a list. I've always been tempted to do those kinds of lists where it's, you give very little info and you just pour it for the person. They're like, I love this. And you're like, this is a Czech Gruner blend, or this is a Ontario this, or this is a Marquette, hybrid grapes especially too. Just shaking people from these preconceptions. But I think maybe that's the trend that I wanted to anti-Ontario, or the trend, the historic like grasp that like Burgundy and Bordeaux and Champagne has had on everybody. Let's shake that a little bit. And we're going to Jura now. Cool, because none of us can afford Burgundy anymore. And you just went to a place that was slightly cheaper. Now
Yeah,
that's going skyrocketing. So we're going to try Savoie. Oh, that's going to skyrocket.
yeah, or just come to Victoria and drink some of the best Pinots and Chard ever from Australia.
Yeah, yeah. When you said Victoria, I was like, oh, are you talking about Avril Creek over in Vancouver Island, which is true too. Awesome wines there. I don't know, just shaking people. Exactly. And with Australian importing, like it's that problem too. But I do think it's a lot of people can't reference those good Pinots from by far without being like, it's so Burgundy. You would think this is Volnay. Who cares? I actually hope it's not like Volnay. I hope it's its own thing. Can we calm down? Like, doesn't have to be like this. And sometimes as a wine professional, you do have to communicate that way.
Yeah.
To sell to that hardened Burgundy heart, a great Ontario Pinot or Chardonnay, you have to be like, it's very Merceau-y. You're going to love it. And it's not something I don't think that's the reason they should drink it, but I think it's the way to get them to drink it and to open up their minds. But again, this happens to me at Archive all the time where like I will, instead of a person's asking for a $200 Jura Chardonnay, and I'll be like, yeah, but this Pearl or more like a 19e or this from Therianthropy or whatever, I'm like, or Last House. I'm like, and this will be a third of the price and it will bring you so much joy.
Yeah, I'm very conflicted on that. I sell by far by pointing out that in any warm year, they're also making Domaine du Jeu.
Yeah.
But I think it should just stand on it. It should just be for something.
But we have to face, that's a weird balance that we have to strike. We ultimately, we're in the business of eventually selling wine.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be the primary focus. It should be to get people wines that they want, but the wines have to sell.
Yeah. All right. Last question and to build on this. I want to do overrated, underrated.
Oh no.
And I'm just going to list some wine regions.
Okay.
And this would be someone who likes to drink wine at restaurants, but not like in the industry. Burgundy.
Overrated.
Champagne.
Overrated.
Rioja.
Rated. I think so. Yeah.
Victoria, Australia.
Underrated.
Galicia.
Underrated.
Napa.
Overrated.
Niagara.
Underrated.
Tuscany.
Rated.
Bordeaux.
Rated.
Canary Islands.
Severely underrated.
Piedmont.
Oh, overrated.
I agree. Jura.
Rated.
And the Willamette Valley.
Underrated. Anyways, there's so many qualifications to make. I was so uncomfortable. But
It's okay. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is great. Happy I got to chat with you. And yeah, as much as I'm talking about Raton Laveur in a public setting and getting the name out there and everything, it's a small place. Respect the place. It's 18 seats. We have a lot of people coming in to try to get their photo and do their thing and enjoy their time by getting their photo. Great. But I don't know. I just want to temper people's expectations sometimes. Like sometimes it's going to be dead, can come right in. Sometimes it's going to be absolutely rammed. But come by, enjoy yourself, respect the space, and enjoy what I'm trying to curate for people.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
There's nothing you could have said to make more people come than what you just said, which is don't come.
Yeah, I know.